I have happened to be in the one of the roles, head of support, where I had a lot of knowledge. I had a lot of understanding not only of what the product does, but also how people use the product day in, day out, all of their pain points, all of the bugs that they run into, all of the feature requests, all of that stuff. So I saw an opportunity to take support and do two things. One, I wanted to build a premium support level, and that worked out pretty nicely.
Hello, and welcome to the CX Files. Today's guest is Nick Jimenez. Nick, thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
So I always like to start off and ask people a little bit about their past. And if there's a story you could tell us from your work experience or on the personal side, something related to a customer experience, yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, sure. I think I want to open up with a tough experience. Those are always fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
18, 19 years old, working at Starbucks. I'd been there a couple of years already. And one of my strengths, just in general, is that there's a little bit of a competency level. Unfortunately, what that does create is a little bit of rigidity, and over the years, is something I've worked on. Um, and so I was leading teams and working with a very particular customer at this point that had very specific asks, and according to the books, it was a bit of a no-no.
Mm.
Um, and so there was kind of a philosophical, like, just we're at odds. Like, well, I can't do this because I'm told I'm not supposed to do this, but the customer wants it, and that also agrees with other things that we're trying to do. And so their requests around the kind of drinks and beverages that they wanted, there's also money involved. It was cheaper if they did it this way, et cetera, et cetera. So
Mm-hmm.
trying to align myself with everything going on here, and I decided to be rigid about what I was told to do, and it caused a ton of frustration on the customer
Mm.
side, and it was a whole thing. We've got reviews, et cetera. Like, it got back up to people above me. Um, and it was a very early moment in my career of it sucked. It just sucked. It was no
Mm.
good. And I had to learn something, and I didn't even know really what it was. It's just like, okay, I guess I won't do that again next time. But over the years, I started to realize and look back at that moment and just kind of see, like, okay, I do have this kind of rigidness to the way that I follow the rules sometimes. And for whatever reasons, in my personality, it's just how I had approached things. So that's always been kind of it's a simple thing, but it's been something that stuck with me and reminds me of the human experience, and how to kind of just be more balanced as a human being. And so
Mm.
I always look back at that as an early thing that I dealt with that, like I said, sticks with me and kind of has shaped who I am.
Yeah, I think there's really um, this thing that happens, I think, at some point in everybody's work experience where there's something that they know is the right thing to do, but they're kind of getting pulled in different directions by the company, the customer, kind of their own requirements, and then how do you kind of solve that, right? How do you navigate that? It's really a critical piece, and I think um, unfortunately some people make a mistake there, and they'll go and they'll sabotage their career, or they'll destroy a relationship with a customer. It'll get unbalanced on some side. um, that's really a tough thing, and I think especially in support, you naturally you care about people, and you want to make them happy, in service generally, right? Whether you're working in retail at a Starbucks, or for a high-tech company. um, but I think that there's a difficulty there, and if you can resolve it, it's really a kind of a transformation, right?
Yeah.
It's really a great thing.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of rectifying different parts of yourself and different demands that are put upon you to create that better experience. And I will say that, that's for me personally, it was difficult to kind of figure that out, and it wasn't just a, hey, let's flip a switch and now I'm better at this all of a sudden.
Hmm.
Years of work and understanding myself and personal things I've dealt with and career things I've dealt with, but yeah, it's a little thing, like I said, but it is that transformational kind of seed that pushed me in the direction I went.
So one of the things I've always really enjoyed is seeing your posts on LinkedIn. You've got some great content out there, and I think it's really there's always a little bit of fun and a little bit of playfulness that
Yeah.
is just it's just really I think it's just nice to have. Business is this serious dry thing by default, and if you don't intentionally kind of liven it up a little bit, then it's boring. And so I really appreciate your post. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about like where did that thread of like injecting fun into things, where did that kind of start?
Yeah, I will say that kind of the business aspect of business has never been my strong suit. It's something that I've had to really learn
Mm-hmm.
over time. I've talked with other people, friends, and the boss that currently report to. One of my goals is to kind of get that like MBA kind of from her, and she's amazing, and I've learned a lot about business from her. But it can get dry, can get a little bit boring. And I think there's a tendency, especially on LinkedIn, for people to be very serious about things. And there are a lot of serious matters, and I understand that. In life, there's a lot of seriousness. We get into business because we all want to make money. So I get that too. It's a serious matter. But we should also have the human experience along the way. We should have some fun. We should be, authentic without the trademark next to it. We should be able to, yeah, we should be able to kind of liven things up and tell those jokes or at any of those given times, the times that make sense. And so I think that when I approached the LinkedIn content early on, it was just more jokey, and that didn't really align with even who I am as a person. So I started figuring out like what actually matters to me and how would I talk about those things in normal life and get that across. And I wanted to tell jokes sometimes. I wanted to come at it from a weird angle that maybe is just, I don't know, that's just the thought in my head. So let's just take it there and see what happens. And that's just what I've been trying to figure out. And the jokes are fun. The memes are fun to me, and I think sometimes it allows people, it disarms people, and I see
Mm-hmm.
more conversations come in that way, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I think whether you're purely trying to have fun or purely trying to succeed in business, um, authenticity always wins, and without the trademark next to
Yeah.
it. but but yeah, that's a great line. I think that one of the things that you're touching on is kind of picking up on the business acumen from this woman, I believe, who's like a mentor for you in
Yeah.
certain ways. The picking up on the business acumen and also just the communication skills, right? Can you talk a little bit about like maybe some piece or some example of something you've learned that really helps you?
Yeah, I think so. This is she's the CRO of Postal right now, Patricia Duchesne. And one of the things that I've really learned from her is a lot. I learn a lot from her example. First and foremost, like I've had the opportunity, the privilege, really, to report to her since the beginning of Postal. And so the way that she goes about her business is very much that lighthearted, but she knows her stuff kind of approach, and it's something that obviously I very much, that's how I align myself as a person too. Like I want to know my stuff and be on top of everything that I'm supposed to be responsible for, but do it in the way that kind of makes me happy and could potentially like bring some joy to other people and just make situations a little bit easier. So
Hmm.
it could be anything from how to have better conversations when buying tech.
Hmm.
That's a conversation we've had in the past. I've had to evaluate and understand support technology, and those have been good conversations. I've never sold, and she's sold for years, so it's been great. Just great conversations about how do you approach this person, what kind of expectations, even just personal, like, hey, when is the end of the salesperson's quarter? Let's think about that too, because they might be a little more pressed. You might want to just give them better timeline. So just little things like that about going about the business. And I've been able to apply a lot of it to support, which gives me a little bit more of a sales kind of approach to support sometimes, which I love because I think that's a little rare too in the support industry.
Yeah, I love that. I think one of the things that I think everybody universally hates is air quotes, being sold to,
Yeah.
right? Um, Being pitched something, you know, somebody's trying to hawk something at you, right?
Yeah.
That never feels good. Um, but we experience sales all the time in our own personal lives, whether it's, just outside of business as well as inside of business. But I think that the thread that connects that with support in my mind is this kind of good sales and good support both share this kind of consultation kind of energy. This, I'm here to help you. Let's understand your needs. Let's figure this out together. Okay, like here's a solution that works for you, right? And that's really the same kind of thing, right?
Right.
And that feels good, right? That's not here, buy what I'm selling, or here, take the answer I'm giving you in the context of support.
Yeah.
It's, what about this? What about that? Here's some advice for you. What would you like to do, right? That feels very, very different. And so I think, there's a lot of support folks that would be very good at sales, right? Obviously, personal skills and everything. But we're not here to talk about sales specifically. I do want to focus in on support. And again, kind of connecting to the theme here, there's this idea that's growing and growing, and I think is long overdue, um, as it is. This idea of connecting revenue growth to support, or revenue attribution from support. Now, can you talk a little bit about that, and maybe some of the things? You don't have to get into specifics, but generally what you're thinking about that at Postal.
Yeah, that is so I think that very idea is really what has kind of taken me to the next level professionally. So at MindBody, I previously worked at the company MindBody, and I was a support manager there. And my job was it was a really good job, but it was very like kind of cookie cutter. Everyone had every new manager had the role, and it was all written out, and everything was done. And here were all the reports and everything and metrics you had to live up to, and none of it had to do anything with how support impacts revenue. It was fine.
Mm.
Here, Postal, where I work at currently, I built it from the ground up, and I had to figure that out. There was nobody before me who was advocating previously of like how support supports our customers, how it impacts renewals, how it impacts even some of the early prospecting that we'd get. So there was nobody there to think about any of that, and so that was my job, and that was something I was tasked to do, and it has been a tough journey, I would say. It really, when I started getting on LinkedIn, there was not a lot of voices that I found who were talking about it, and something I had to search for a long time. And now I see it a lot in algorithm, maybe, but I see it a lot more, and it's one, good to know that I'm not alone. Two, good to know that like this is a thing that people think about all the time, and really good support leaders are very good at. So yeah, that's definitely been part of the journey here that I've gone through.
Yeah, yeah. I think the legacy view of support is this is just a cost, right? And
Mhm.
we need to manage that cost as much as we can. Um, and I think that is, maybe talking to you and maybe talking to the people in the audience, it's obviously short-sighted,
Mhm.
to say the least.
Yeah.
And I spoke recently with Connor Pendergrast. He's a great guy, and runs customer success trainings and things like that. Um, and one of the things that he was saying is just, you know, it's it's the support folks and the customer success folks that are actually engaging with customers on a regular basis. That's where the rubber hits the road, right? That's the contact point between your business. That's the face of your business. So obviously, if those interactions are good, timely, thoughtful, nuanced, then that's going to benefit the business not only in terms of like, maybe preventing a loss, but also, of course, renewals and upsells and all these other kinds of things. Um, can you talk a little bit about like how do you think about metrics and kind of like tying that together? And I'm happy to kind of share some thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I think it's it's really important that one that you can do. I guess two major things, kind of correlating metrics with experience and how that impacts renewals, especially if you're looking at specific timeframes. So we know when customers are getting their QBRs, we know how far they are out from renewal, and I know when customer success teams are having those conversations. That's really huge for a support team to have, because then I can say, hey, the 6 months leading up to this, either they had an overall good or it was bad, or here's how these support touches looked, and here's
Mm,
how what you can do to in your QBRs, or how this will impact the potentially impact the renewal. So it's a bit of correlation there, but I think the timing is really important when we're talking about the where you're correlating. And the second thing is figuring out a way to get it on the P&L. The profit and loss. Like, how does support show up there? Where can we be a point on there that people say, ah, this helped. Um, and that's just you can do that different ways, but if you can get in front of finance that way and be able to speak with them about not just, hey, here's what support costs, but here's what support's impacting, that's going to be the game changer right there. So
mhm.
those are two ways I kind of think about it, and just kind of high level.
Yeah, yeah. I think that like connecting with the P&L is something that is maybe scary for people or unclear exactly how to go about that. And I think it's something that, first of all, it's good to just learn what a P&L is and how does it work and how is it used and what are the kind of terms that appear on there? How is it structured, right? This is just kind of part of general business acumen. And you could spend an afternoon learning this, you could spend 5 minutes, but like dedicate some time to that, I think, and kind of really, start to understand how to connect to that. To your point, and I think that um, there's certain things that support can do, or success to kind of speak the language of that kind of management level of the business, right?
Right.
um, you know the traditional NPS, CSAT, these sorts of things are nice and they're good to track, generally speaking,
Mhm.
but it shouldn't be the only thing, and it's not the language of the P&L, right?
Right.
It's a different kind of world. um, what do you see as the opportunity to kind of like connect support not only to the management level with P&L, but also to other departments and sort of the VOC conversation?
Yeah, I think really when I think about collaborating across teams, especially for revenue reasons, um, I think about I think about driving value and support. So I have to be the person out in front driving that value, speaking to the value of support. So um, making sure that my initiatives are aligning with, let's say, for instance, customer success initiatives. A really cool thing that I got to do about a year ago is as a company, we were talking about renewals. We are talking about onboarding. Onboarding became a very big discussion for our company. And there's a lot of ways to approach onboarding. Of course, you could think, oh, is the product too complicated, or is it too easy, or what is the complexity of the business? There's a lot of factors that go into that, but one of our goals was to just reduce that kind of time to activation. Um, and I have happened to be in the one of the roles, head of support, where I had a lot of knowledge. I had a lot of understanding, not only of what the product does, but also how people use the product day in, day out, all of their pain points, all of the bugs that they run into, all of the feature requests, all of that stuff. So I saw an opportunity to take support and do two things. One, I wanted to build a premium support level, and that worked out pretty nicely. It's pretty basic, so I don't want to go too far into that one. But the bigger impact here that I thought was great is partnering with the onboarding team and ultimately the marketing team too. And marketing was super helpful with this to build an academy like um, feature for our help center that they're able to take and pull pieces of that and put it into the onboarding that aligns with all the steps that they have in each of the phases. And within, a few months, I mean, we had basically reduced something along the lines of like 40 days to like 8 days. It was wildly impressive. There was also a
Mm.
few other changes going on in onboarding, and we'd love to see those too. And I got to be able to kind of help and with those things too. But being able to create that and being able to align not only marketing with that, but with the onboarding team and with CS, and really all of us see that need to do that was something that is a good privilege, but it's also a testament to just work we had all done together and being able to build and maintain those relationships.
Yeah, I mean that's a great example. I think um, this word support, right? It really feels like, kind of it's just a simple description of the category and everybody's familiar with it, but I think words have power and they kind of push us in a certain direction by default unless we're really intentional about them. And so I think this word support really feels like it's an afterthought, right? It's sort of like you're doing the thing and then there's support, right?
Right.
Um, and it's on the side, or it comes after. That's the kind of most basic kind of meaning of the word. We know, of course, that there's this integrated journey, right? There's the user journey, there's
Mm-hmm.
onboarding, there's the life cycle, right? Hopefully, there's a renewal, right, and so
Right.
on. Um, but I think that you know the role of support is so different from what that first impression actually is. We understand today that this needs to be integrated, and there's so much that marketing can learn from this, right? Or maybe even the product team. How does that onboarding look? Okay, here's a key thing. We notice that new customers keep mentioning problem ABC. All right, let's put that front and center in the onboarding, right?
Right.
So I think the opportunity there is huge, and the marketing and support connection seems like a particularly strong one. Um, I think again, there's kind of like the business acumen piece here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Support folks don't necessarily speak marketing,
Right.
um, but if you learn a little bit about it, um, there's so many opportunities there. Could you talk a little bit of like what do you see as you know I guess this kind of again kind of a metrics question here, but if um you've got your knowledge base, you've got your help center out there, um what are some of the signals or some of the things you look for that say, hey, I should highlight this to marketing or highlight this for onboarding?
Yeah. So I think I'll start at a really high level. Something that I think about a lot, especially um, when creating content for the help center, because I've had to do a lot of that, um, is confidence.
Mm.
So as taking myself using a new piece of software, learning anything really, one of the first things that I'm looking for is to create some sort of confidence. Like I want to know that there's that feedback that like, hey, I could do this. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
tough, but I can do
Yeah.
this.
Right.
And so confidence is such a huge thing when I think about how do we talk to customers and how do we identify confidence in customers when they're coming to us. So that's a little harder to really measure. But man,
Mm-hmm.
you're using things like LogRocket, which is a really good tool to kind of just see customer pathing, and you just see
Mm-hmm.
them click, and you see hesitancy in mouse movements, and you're like, oh, that's like I think about that rarely because I just do this every day. This is what I do. Um, and so you're, constantly just I'm constantly looking for ways to kind of help. How do I improve the confidence of our customer? How do I improve, um, you know, the their ability to come to us and be vulnerable in that moment and say, "Hey, I need help." And so that's that support piece of that. But then how do I instill confidence in the onboarding? How do I help the onboarding team to like really understand that this is a priority here? And that was part of what we had to do too. And then when it came to that flight academy, it was that same thing too. Like this is all to really just build not only the competencies of the product, like customers feel like, hey, yeah, I can do this, but like that competence piece that just layers on top of all of that. So confidence is huge for me, and we can see that by we can see that in different ways. Again, it's a little more qualitative than quantitative, but um, the way that people come to us, I know my more confident customers when they have issues, they come to me a little bit more prepared to talk, and I
Mm-hmm.
know the less confident by the way they come to talk with us and how they describe things, and I don't need them all to be experts. But you could just tell by the language, and so that's part of something we look at pretty regularly when we
Mm-hmm.
do like kind of reviews uh, of our interactions with customers. Like, what do you think their confidence level was like? Is there something we could have done different? Is there something we can put on the backlog and figure out later? So I think that's
Got
a
it.
huge part of it.
Got it. Yeah, I love that. I think there's a lot of little things, and like you said, it's more qualitative. Maybe it's more a good anecdote can kind of make the argument internally, right? Or a good collection of this set of users have this similar pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think this is the point in the podcast where you cue the dramatic dun 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 and AI. you know
Here we go.
what what do you what are your thoughts about AI specifically? Any uses that you think are um, overlooked, underappreciated, or surprisingly good?
Yeah. Um, I like a lot of things that are going on right now. I think being able to gather certain things like sentiment, being able to see trends in tickets and kind of help push towards creating better help content. I think a lot of that it was really nice to see as far as AI uses. So the way that I think about AI personally is I think about it as kind of an extension of me. So less of a like this foreign thing that does stuff for me, and more of like how do I think through something? Let's work with AI to kind of think through and workshop and figure out next steps because I have learned a lot and I have a lot of gaps, but I also know that I've gotten here. So how do I continue to kind of evolve that? So I think in support, it's going to take in the future, and I haven't seen the tech yet, but it's going to take something that becomes really like very partnership with humans, with that
Mm.
agent who's working with that customer, to the point where the customer doesn't really notice or mind that they talked to a bot for 5 minutes and then they got to somebody. Like, we got to get over that. Like, I'm talking to a bot. Let me talk to a human. Just human, please. We got to kind of get past that point where we kind of make it effortless to work with the bot and seamlessly kind of move in with humans seamlessly as possible. I think that's really going to be the next, or not the next, but I think that's really going to be one of the keys to making all of this work together really well. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective. You know, one of the things that I think, is starting to become more and more apparent is when something was created by AI. People are becoming more familiar with that kind of smell,
Hmm.
right? And it's like, oh, this is the ChatGPT post. Like, wow, it
Yeah.
smells like ChatGPT, or maybe people are using Anthropic or one of the other LLMs out there, but I think that what's the word for that? That is a feeling of unease almost, right? For a long time in the conversation about robots, humanoid robots, right? There's the idea of the uncanny valley, where it's not quite clearly a machine and it's not quite clearly a human, and it's
Right.
kind of in that uncomfortable middle ground. And I think with AI chatbots, I think that there's a ton of providers out there. There's a ton of options. Some of them are really promising that it's going to be kind of on brand. It's going to have like the tone of your company, and I think that that's better than not having that. But it still feels like it's in that uncanny valley a little bit. And if you want to give people an understanding experience, a kind of a thoughtful experience, something that shows, some empathy. Like, don't use a robot to do that,
Right.
right? Like let the robot be a tool. Let it do what
Mhm.
it does best instead of having it try to be a human, like really hard but fail.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
That's just a personal opinion about it, and I think you know there's so many use cases for AI that are really good. Um, and one of the ones you touched on is this kind of sentiment analysis, I believe, or
Hmm.
kind of the analysis side of things, because the meat the meat and potatoes is actually whether it's a contact message or an agent response or a knowledge base article that's created by a human, right?
Right.
And then the summary part can be assisted, um, and that could be internally, that could be also for the end user, right? The AI agent, the AI bot is kind of summarizing your knowledge base article and then kind of tailoring it a
Hmm.
little bit for what the person is talking about. Um, yeah, I think that there's a lot of excitement around AI, but a lot of the reality is that it's kind of hard to get good results without
Yeah.
doing a lot of hard work, which honestly like predates AI. And so um, I wanted to ask you a little bit how you think about kind of knowledge management and um, and those kind of building blocks of getting a good result with AI.
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually part of the product that I've worked on is completely self-serve and only has a chatbot in it. So I've had a lot of really interesting experiences getting into like what is the bot doing, what is our knowledge base helping it to do, and how are the customers interacting with that. Um, One thing is when you're looking at your product, you can think of every scenario you've seen under the sun, but you're going to be missing something, of course, when you're building out a new help
Mm-hmm.
center. Um, and so what my whole vision or my routine with this is to one was initially to release something that would hopefully be as painless as possible for our customers, and then two, have very quick turnaround feedback loops, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to give the bot what it needs, but also create these really thoughtful help articles that help people to understand what it is they're trying to do based on the outcomes that they need. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then we just create, the what does your interaction look like? Did it work? Did it not work? Could it have been better? So just watching all of this happen, and again getting into maybe some session data and understanding exactly how they're moving through the product has been a big help too. Um, the AI part of it, once we kind of get to that part, is working really well. I'm really happy about where it's at, but it is a lot of work to train it in that way and to help it understand. And I think that's where the value of having that human touch is, to be able to do that. Because you can look at all the trends and you can look at everything that's coming up through the bot, but there are sometimes there's just going to be gaps, and the human needs to be there to be able to understand the emotional part of that, to be able to understand like, oh, actually, it works this way because you don't know that you're an AI bot. So let's work on that. But yeah, that's it's been a challenge, but that's been a really really interesting experience that I've had.
Got it. So for the last section of the podcast here, I wanted to talk a little bit about the future and about what you see coming up. You could talk more about what you think is the future of AI or just trends in CX in general.
Yeah. Um, I'm very interested. We had some I think it was Zendesk recently had a pretty interesting event, and they're doing a lot of interesting things with AI, and I think that's a pretty interesting ground that they're hitting with kind of generating generative articles and searches, etc., through the help center.
Mm-hmm.
I am interested personally. I am interested in how AI will impact current service professionals, current support
Mm.
professionals. I know they've worked a lot of really great people who may not be super aware of like how this is going to impact their job, and I know that there comes concern for me because it's not only that level or where they're at in their careers, but how businesses are thinking about AI. And a lot of it is just very like, hey, we're just going to throw AI into this and it's going to work. And some companies have laid off a lot of people and they see that they regret it. And So it's just very interesting to see how service professionals are thinking about it, especially those who are a little more frontline. And so a lot of what I'm doing, and as I'm learning and understanding and kind of regurgitating my lessons that I've learned about AI, is something I'm also working with my team on too. Just, hey, let's get more familiar with this, what it does, how it works, because everything's changing so rapidly, and we kind of have to align or change or just at least understand what's coming at us. And I think that's a really good place for, if especially if you're on a frontline service, is to be thinking about that and how you can educate yourself or be educated. Um, so yeah, that's something I'm really focused on, and now and in the future.
Got it. Yeah, I think staying on top of trends is really essential, and how that impacts people. The stories like yours we're hearing today, and stories from other leaders in the space is really, I think, valuable just to have some more data points about. Okay, this is how people are thinking about things. This is what's on people's radar. Um, what is to close out the episode here finally, what is like one piece of advice or one thing that you would strongly recommend to people who are maybe getting started in their career, maybe in the middle of their career, who want to level up and kind of take the next step?
Yeah. I think it's important to have good people around you. Work for leaders that you admire. Um,
Mm-hmm.
work for people that you do believe that you can contribute something to your career, and also that the company, hopefully all of this aligns for you, that a company you can actually contribute to. I think that is important. I did not have that for a long time. I don't say all of those factors all together for a long time, and I'm very thankful that I have that now. But it's a lot of, it took a lot of self-starting, a lot of reading, listening to tapes. I was listening to tapes. This was what, 15 years ago. CDs, whatever it was, whatever means I could to learn. But I will say nothing really replaces good people around you. So if you can find a good boss you can work for, even if it's for a couple of years, I think that's going to go a long way. But just driven, know where you want to go, and if you don't know, it's fine too. But it's always good to figure that out. And it's taken me a little while to figure that out, but I feel a lot more confident now that I know what I want to do. So yeah, I would say good people around you, and just the ability to self start and get after your goals.
Yeah, self-starting is so essential, right? I mean, and if you have a little bit of direction, you have a little bit of drive, there's so much information available now, whether you're using AI to find it or search or going to the
Mm-hmm.
library, whatever you like to do. Um, but but yeah, thanks, Nick. This has been great. And everybody, Nick Jimenez, follow him on LinkedIn if you're not already. Some great meme posts and fun stuff, and also some great insights on CX as well. So that's all for the CX files today, and we'll catch you next time.